Chairwoman Bonilla, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. As you mentioned, my name is Joey Freeman, and I am the Chief Consultant for Education Policy for our Lieutenant Governor, Gavin Newsom. The Lieutenant Governor is a firm believer in the importance of expanding computer science in schools across California and equipping our young people with the skills they need to succeed in the jobs of the 21st century. One of the barriers, as was mentioned, preventing more schools from offering computer science and therefore more students from taking it is the fact that the University of California and the California State University systems do not recognize computer science as a core mathematics or science course, but rather as an elective. In response, the Lieutenant Governor spearheaded a letter in December 2015 to the Board of Admissions and Relations with Schools, or BORS as many know it, of the University of California Academic Senate, urging its members to adopt new standards to accommodate academically rigorous computer science courses. The Lieutenant Governor was joined by a coalition of key political, nonprofit, and business leaders in that letter, including Secretary of State Alex Padilla, Assemblywoman Kristen Olson, the superintendents of the San Francisco, Oakland, and Long Beach Unified School Districts, and the leaders of the Alliance for California Computing Education for Students and Schools, the Campaign for College Opportunity, and Education Trust West. Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce.com, Sheryl Sandberg, the COO of Facebook, and Brad Smith, the President and Chief Legal Officer of Microsoft, led more than 20 of their colleagues in support of the letter as well. I don't list these names to impress you, but rather to impress upon you that the leaders of both our public education system and the employers who greet our students on the other side stand in agreement that the UC and CSU making this change would provide significant and necessary exposure of computer science to our students. California currently has over 86,000 open computing jobs with an average salary of about $105,000, significantly higher than the average salary in the state. Yet despite those opportunities, California graduated just 3,500 computer science graduates in 2014. And of particular importance to this committee, only 15% of those students were female. This gender gap really is striking, and it doesn't begin in college. Last year, in 2015, of the only 8,688 high school students in the state of California who took the AP Computer Science exam, just 26% were female. Only 973 were Hispanic, and only 148 were black. We must take steps to rectify this gross inequity. It's important to consider, too, why this matters, why Lieutenant Governor Newsom and so many others believe every student should have access to computer science education. And the answer is quite straightforward. For a growing number of academic and professional pursuits, computer science provides just as relevant a foundation as algebra. Every student learns about photosynthesis and fractions, even if they don't grow up to become botanists or mathematicians. And today, California's children also deserve the option to learn what an algorithm is and how the internet works. We have made progress. The chairman of the UC Boards Committee responded to our letter and made a couple suggestions with which we agree. The Lieutenant Governor agrees that both the state's lack of K-12 content standards for computer science and the discrepancy in the credential or certification required to teach computer science are both significant barriers to achieving our goal. However, we continue to believe that the UC and CSU's recognition of computer science as a mathematics or science course remains an essential step. We were pleased also that the Academic Senate of the California State University, the CSU, formed a task force to examine what the prerequisite content for quantitative reasoning and mathematical competency should be, and as part of that work, they will be answering the question of whether or not computer science should count. I'd like to highlight for just a moment the work done by the Representation Project, which was founded by Jennifer Siebel Newsom, the Lieutenant Governor's wife. The Representation Project inspires individuals and communities to challenge and overcome limiting stereotypes and social injustices so that everyone can fulfill their human potential. In talking about the gender gap in education, Mrs. Newsom poses the questions, why are young girls not just falling behind, but also never even entering the race when it comes to STEM? And as a New York Times reporter recently reported, why are so many young boys falling behind in pretty much everything else? Boys and girls sit in the same classrooms and are taught by the same teachers, but these problems persist, and they are undoubtedly influenced by gender. All of us collectively, policymakers, educators, advocates, must educate and socialize our young boys and girls in ways that enable them to reach their full human potential. That means challenging our biases about who has an inherent talent for computer science. It means combating stereotypes pervasive in media and society that computer science is a geeky, masculine, and solitary profession. It means heeding the data that tells us that providing our girls with mentors is a powerful factor in reinforcing that computer science is not just for boys. And it means continuing our work with UC and CSU to open the doors for more California students to engage in this coursework. At a time when we know the jobs of today and of tomorrow require these skills, and in an era of widening inequality and lack of opportunity for low-income and minority communities, this is one area where we can do better. I look forward to our continued partnership in strengthening access to computer science and better preparing our young people for the jobs of the 21st century. Thank you, Chairwoman Bonilla and members of the committee, for holding this hearing on such a critical issue.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I want to recognize Assemblyman Ken Cooley, who has joined us as well. We'll move on to our second panelist, Beth Broom, co-chair for Million Women Mentors, California, and senior advisor to the provost at UC Davis STEM Strategies.
So thank you, Assemblywoman Bonilla and the other members of the committee. We really applaud your commitment to this and believe that this committee is essential. We really do not have enough women who complete college in science, technology, engineering, or mathematics disciplines. So the University of California, Davis can point to many successful initiatives that we're involved in for increasing representation. And in fact, as you heard earlier, we were recently recognized by Forbes magazine as the #1 rated university in the nation when it comes to promoting women in STEM. The New York Times additionally called us an upward mobility machine for California in terms of our graduation rates for underrepresented minorities and women. Nevertheless, the overall trend is still not encouraging. While 51% of the California community or California college-age population is female, only 13% of those who earn degrees and certificates are women. On average, for every 100 female undergraduate students, 12 graduate with a STEM major, but only 3 continue to work in the STEM fields after graduation. Nationally, 80% of the fastest-growing occupations depend upon mastery for the STEM skills, and growth in STEM jobs are 3 times more likely than non. Currently, women account for only 24% of the STEM workforce, and the numbers in leadership decreases as the level of leadership increases. According to the World Economic Forum, for every 10 junior leadership positions in STEM industries, 3.5 are held by women. But for every 10 CEO positions in those same industries, 1 is held by a woman. If we continue to miss this mark, then we will fail to achieve parity in representation of the human capital necessary for California's global leadership as a technology innovator. So what are the programs designed to increase the representation of women in STEM is the Million Women Mentors. Million Women Mentors is a national movement led by STEM Connector, and it supports the engagement of 1 million science, technology, engineering, and math mentors, whether they're male or female, to increase the interest and confidence of girls and women to persist and succeed in STEM programs and careers. Million Women Mentors is co-led by UC Davis and the California Commission on the Status of Women and Girls. Million Women Mentors California officially launched in January of 2016. The Honorary Council is co-chaired by UC Davis Chancellor Linda Katehi. She's an electrical engineer and a holder of 19 U.S. patents in this field. Chancellor Katehi believes that UC Davis is uniquely positioned to co-lead this with the Commission and become the springboard to bring it to scale across the state. In her remarks at our opening in January of 2016, Chancellor Katehi stressed the importance of young women being able to access mentors, because no one achieves success by themselves. We all need a helping hand and encouragement. We all need role models. We all need someone to guide us. And this is particularly true for women and girls in STEM. We need to start this work with girls early, get them interested in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics before they run into that institutional bias that tells young girls these are not the fields for them. So Million Women Mentors California has set a goal to engage 50,000 mentor pledges by 2018. And our goals are simple: to increase the percentage of middle school and high school girls planning to pursue STEM careers, to increase the percentage of young women pursuing undergraduate degrees in the STEM fields, and to increase the percentage of women staying and advancing in STEM careers through supporting workforce mentorship programs. In addition, we have set metrics and will capture data to prove mentoring girls and women in STEM is a positive and impactful solution. We'll provide automated, scalable, and easy-to-use matching platforms to eliminate barriers and provide large numbers of STEM professionals with tools to become effective mentors. We intend to positively impact thousands of young women and girls through this work, and we invite you to pledge to be a mentor. And this can be done online at millionwomenmentors.ca/org. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about this very important subject today.
That's great. It's really exciting to hear about. Next, we have Nancy Kirshner Rodriguez, Executive Director for the California Commission on the Status of Women and Girls.
Great. Thank you so much, Assemblywoman. It is an honor to be here today, and it's exciting that this is happening today. I have had the pleasure of serving as Executive Director of the Commission for about 18 months, and this position gives me an opportunity to work both on my passions and with many, many people that I think are committed to the same things. And one thing that I would particularly like to cite is our commission, I think, is in a stronger and more forward-looking place than we have been in quite a while. We are a 17-member commission. We are currently chaired by Lupita Cortez Alcala. She's not here today, but she is Superintendent Torlickson's appointee. And the reason that I mention that is because statutorily this commission, I think, has for 50 years been focusing on equity, access, and justice for California's women and girls, but truly our successes are about the leadership and the linkages. And we work to maintain and strengthen our legacy by identifying and tackling areas of continued disparities. So when I started, of course, our previous chair was Gina Davis, and she still serves on the commission, and I think many of you are aware of her leadership in really taking a look at the media fields, many of which are technologically impacted or there are careers, and so this STEM has been a big focus for her. And the commission, after the report that you so ably oversaw the state pursuing on STEM, the Commission joined with the California Department of Education and the CDE Foundation to co-host these STEM symposiums. And that has been very important because one of the specific things that we have done there under the leadership of our chair has been to focus on women and girls in STEM and have an entire strand. And that has brought together all sorts of different people to really hone in and focus and built our networks. And in addition, and then I think I really have to compliment TechNet and the leadership of your Vice Chair, Ling Chang, because creating the Women and Girls in STEM Week, which is part of the reason why we're all here, recognizing that it shouldn't necessarily be 1 week, but that we need this focus I think drove many of us together. I had the pleasure of really getting to know Andrea through last year's first event. And then Million Women Mentors for both Lupita and myself was something we were talking about. We want to figure out how to really make this happen. And then along came the UC Davis opportunity for partnership and Beth's vision. And we are extremely committed to seeing this initiative move forward, for it to be a way to hone in on why it is so critical to identify as many different ways as we can to support women and girls in STEM, particularly for the economic imperative for our state. And we talk over and over and over about it, but there are over 3 million young girls in the public schools. More than 62% of them are girls of color, and we have a lot of work to do to ensure that they are afforded all of the opportunities that our other students are afforded. And just as a point of personal privilege, I will tell you that I too am I think many of us are the mothers of girls, but I am the mother of an 11-year-old. And when I used to have time before I had this job, I used to do school tours at her public elementary school in San Francisco. And I remember I would take these parents that were like looking at the schools for kindergarten. I would take them into the computer science class, where we do have a classroom, and the teacher there would tell them it is critically important for all students to be in this class in kindergarten. And I can tell you that in kindergarten, I already see, just by virtue of the spatial playing of boys and girls, that there is a wide and deep spread in girls and boys' interest in what is going on the computers. And that has stuck with me ever since, I think, from hearing that. And so I just see all of this as an opportunity for us to create more leadership and more linkages. And thank you very much for having us here today.
Thank you. And Andrea Duveau, Executive Director of TechNet.
Yeah. Thank you, Chairwoman Bonilla, and now we can say and committee. My name is Andrea DeVoe, as you mentioned. I'm the Executive Director for TechNet, who represents over 80 technology companies, ranging from the largest iconic tech companies in the world to small startups. It is truly an honor to be here today, and amongst such amazing panelists, our fellow male panelists, and those in the audience, and of course, this great select committee. In the theme of creating more opportunities for girls in STEM, I want to start by why we even have to be talking about the need to create more opportunities for women and girls. As articulated by the American Association of University of Women, and what many of us have experienced firsthand, our society tells girls and women that they don't belong in science, technology, engineering, and math fields. As early as first grade, children have already developed a sense of gender identity, and most have developed unconscious bias associating boys with math. At almost every step of the STEM education ladder, we see girls walk away. Linda Calhoun on the first panel alluded to this as well. By 7th grade, many girls are ambivalent about these fields, and by the end of high school, far fewer girls than boys plan to pursue STEM in college. But the low number of women and girls pursuing STEM fields is not the status quo we can live with. It has significant implications for women's financial securities, economic growth, and global innovation. To quote Superintendent Torlakson from this morning, we need to do more, we need to do better, and we must. We must start with parent and mentor support and raise STEM daughters. We must create and support STEM programs focused on women and girls, some of which I will highlight momentarily. We must provide investment and funding. And we must start with exposure to young girls in preschool. And we need to bookend this with support in our community colleges and universities, and at every stage in between. As mentioned, a critical component of bridging this gap for girls is programs focused on women and girls. I want to highlight just a few programs that TechNet members offer today. Google, they have a Made with Code program, a national initiative to inspire millions of girls to learn with code and see coding as a means to pursue their dream careers. They have a Women Tech Makers program. It's Google's Women Tech Makers. It provides visibility, community, and resources for women in tech. CA Technologies, one of the largest independent software corporations in the world, is an absolute leader in terms of their corporate social responsibility. They are committed to promoting gender diversity through partnerships with the Anita Borg Institute for Women in Technology, their own Tech Girls Rock initiative with the Boys and Girls Club of America. Apple, a lifetime partner of NCWIT, the National Council for Women in Information Technology. This supports their Latinos in Technology initiative, aspiration and commuting programs, and the telling and sharing of innovation stories. Microsoft, they have a Digital Girls program, remarkable. A Microsoft Youth Spark program gives middle and high school girls opportunities to learn about careers in technology and connect with Microsoft employees and participate in hands-on computer and technology workshops. eBay is committed to diverse talent in the STEM fields and their core belief that a diverse workforce leads to increased innovation, which led to their creation of eBay's Successful Women Initiative Network, or WIN, back in 2011. This is just a snapshot of what the tech industry does offer women and girls. However, we realize it is more than this. We need to work collectively with all stakeholders to incorporate and build upon these programs and to build a comprehensive strategic plan to solve our talent crisis. While there is good progress, there is still work to be done, as is evidenced by so many of the statistics we heard today. To this end, we believe that a number of initiatives currently moving through the legislature this year, including the AB 2629, authored by you, Assemblywoman Bonilla, and AB 2275, authored by Assemblymember DeBobney, both increasing computer science with the goal of having computer science in every classroom in California, as well as a number of the governor's 2016-17 proposed budget items focused on high-quality technology, enhanced teaching and learning, along with providing access to digital tools needed to solve problems and close the digital divide. We are at the tipping point, you said it first, of an incredible opportunity and supporting the entire ecosystem of STEM. It's a critical factor in driving growth and development in not only the tech industry, but in so many other fields such as agriculture, architecture, veterinary science, and beyond, and quite frankly, society at large. This is an issue for women and also something that requires engagement from everyone. Thank you for taking the time today, for holding this hearing. It's such an honor to be here, and we look forward to continuing to discuss this important issue. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Just a little summary and a couple of comments, and I'm sure Mr. Cooley will have a comment or question as well. But what you described, Mr. Freeman, really is, to me, kind of the chicken or the egg conundrum. We know that we don't have the colleges are saying you don't have standards and trained teachers with credentials, and we're saying please if you would change your A through G, that would make this happen. And it's like who's going to actually make it happen first? We need to make it all happen. We need to get the trained credential clearly the good standards established, and we need the faculty senates and the universities to come around and say this is a course that we're going to count. Right. So that was a very interesting point. I do want to also just touch on, as we've talked a lot today about women graduating and at points where they don't graduate. And we dealt with this in AB 2350, which Sarah on my staff worked very, very hard on, and being a science grad student herself was the inspiration for the bill, Sarah Brady. And we realized there were Title IX violations happening on our university campuses for particularly our grad students. And as they commit more and more years to research, they're in research departments, that we had some of our scientists and programs basically, saying, you have to make a choice as a woman. Are you going to stay with the research project, or are you going to get pregnant? Because you're not going to be able to do both. And Ms. Brady had the brilliant connection there that's actually a Title IX violation, pregnancy discrimination. And so we passed a bill, AB 2350, that really has made universities develop policies, made it very clear they're not allowed to do that. And it's actually triggered a nationwide look at this issue, along with the help of one of the researchers from UC Berkeley. So So, we said earlier, policy is important. We're starting to move in the right direction there. But thank you so much for what you shared today. And Mr. Cooley, do you have questions or comments you'd like to make?
Well, since I'm a late arriver, I'll more make comments. I thank you very much for convening this. I thank you for the focus. It's an interesting subject matter. I grew up in a home of boys. And then as my brothers and I started having kids, we had mostly grandboys. 8 of the 11 grandkids from my parents were boys. So a lot of testosterone where I grew up. Now, my 2 sons, as they are having families, most of my grandchildren are little girls. The newest is not a month old yet, little Ada, born on the 14th. I guess when I think about STEM, it's a very important field. I'm not an educator. I'm active in my community. I feel I work to support STEM. Sort of my interest in this actually grows out of, in Rancho Cordova, we have a middle school, the Mills Middle School. And every 2 years, they do a math science camp. We go down to near Santa Cruz, New Brighton State Beach. And just because of a peculiarity, honestly, of who I am, I always go and run the campsite. So last year when I did it, I was running the campsite for 4 days, feeding 100 over 4 days. And we always have a former valedictorian, a young woman out of Rancho Cordova, who comes in as a part of the faculty. Very inspiring young woman as a part of this math science camp. And just in general, when I think about my granddaughters or the young women who now, girls who were in my math science camp that I ran, just running the campsite in 2008, 2010, I know have now gone to our Cash for College workshops and are on to college. I look at it sort of through the perspective of having been a corporate lawyer for almost 20 years. And I sort of think what we want to do in this area is grow people who are sort of T-shaped professionals, which is sort of a lingo thing, which conveys the idea that we want people to understand that their success in life is based upon the total package of who they are, all the skills and attributes that make them a distinctive individual. And the T-shaped part is just that, the full breadth of who they are. That's the top of the T, and then the tail of the T is an area where they develop outstanding expertise. And I think in most organizations, I think it is the people who can really advance and be transformative in their place are someone who just has great breadth as a personality and then has an area of specialty. And I go into this sort of discussion because I think it is very important for all of our students, but especially for women, to know that when they are encouraged to pursue a STEM career, it's not about changing who I am. We don't want to convey that message. Choose this. It's really a message about hold on to the greatness of who you are. And within that, assimilate an additional quality. And I think I definitely feel that for my granddaughters, for the kids that go to my camp out, the message I want to convey, and I'm a lay person and not an educator, is that this is not something other. This is something that ought to be a part of your life. And that you can, just through the greatness of you can be this person of outstanding breadth and interpersonal skills and all this package of wonderful things. And then education is just a way to assimilate something to that. And that if you just aspire to pursue the greatness of you and develop some depth in a field, that as you move up in the organization, that chart of lower, it's the total package person that moves up the ladder. And we want to inspire people to feel that they can do that. And it's not by, I've got to embrace something foreign to me, but just assimilate this quality. So that's sort of my hope for the math science camp. It's my hope for my 3 granddaughters, who I should say Charlotte, Anna, and Ada. And it's certainly why I, with my demographic, want to be a part of your committee. I thank you for your leadership. I feel it's trying to move our state in a very important direction to help us tackle all the challenges we have. So thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much again to our final panel. Again, we've talked today about the importance of role models, mentoring strongly developed and supported professionals, standards within our school, the role of policy, leadership at all levels. We have all the ingredients, and we're, I think, beginning to see how they are interacting. And I'm sure Sarah Brady, as a chemist, would have a better term, analogy of what's happening with these ingredients that would be a chemistry term. But I know that we all see the vision. We all know where we want to end up, where STEM, the acronym goes away, where we don't have to keep talking about this anymore. It's just a natural part of our education for all of our students, and that it just becomes routine. That's where we want to get. But we're in a very exciting phase right now where we're each bringing what we have to bear and our own individual realms of leadership to accomplish that, to have the reaction and interaction of all that we're working on to achieve the goal for all the young women who are coming along very quickly every year right behind us. And so I just want to thank all of you who are dedicated in your various companies, the nonprofits, the educational world, the policy world, realms of, and the business world. The huge impact and the partnerships that we see from those who realize we need this workforce. We need them in our companies for the work we're doing together. And I'm glad that we have some bills this year. We're going to have more. I think we're going to see a real uptick over the next several years. I think we're going to see, leadership from the governor's office, the lieutenant governor's office, continuing that leadership, and that's very, very important. Just as I stated, in educational institutions like schools, if you don't have your superintendents and principals focusing on it, you're just going to be bumping into a barrier. But I'm so encouraged to have the lieutenant governor's office here and his leadership, because we need that on the national stage, and it's happening in state after state. And California, my goodness, we've got to be there. We just can't take for granted that it's just going to happen. It won't. We have to give leadership to it. So thank you to each of our presenters and the previous presenters as well, and to our audience for joining us today. We have more work to do, but it's going to have a great outcome. So thank you so very much. And with that, I'll adjourn our select hearing today. Thank you.